So I'm nervous for tomorrow, and you guys might be wondering why I'm nervous. And the reason is because I'm going back onto a day shift as a senior, where I'm going to be senioring a team with interns and possibly medical students. And it's actually been a while since I've seniored. The last time was probably back in early November. And at that time, I actually felt like I didn't do the best job senioring. I really try to be the best senior I possibly can be, but I feel like that time I just didn't do that great of a job, or as great of a job as I would have liked. I'm going to make a separate video on that experience, soon, so I can kind of reflect on why I could have been better as a senior that time. But yeah, I'm really hoping that this time I can really try and be the senior that, I aspire to be, and probably be a really good senior for the interns. And so one of the things I'm looking forward to doing is actually bringing back, doing expectations. Expectations is something that, a lot of times you're told, oh, it's a really good thing to do at the beginning of the rotation. And at the beginning of second year, I was really good at doing it. I would set expectations at the very beginning of the rotation, tell them what I wanted and how I liked to run things. And for some reason, I just got complacent and I just kind of stopped doing that. And I feel like it would be something that's good to bring back. So anyways, this is a old thing that I was using in second year. And I would print this one-page sheet out for the interns. And it was called Expectations for Interns. It's pretty long. I don't know if I should still print this or if I should just, do it on the whiteboard or something. But expectations for interns, rounding, we'll do bedside rounds on any medical student patients, active patients, potential discharges. The rest of the patients we'll do table rounds for. And at the end of rounds, we may discuss what is one thing I learned today on rounds. I never really got around to implementing this, but one attending I had did do that. And I felt like it was a really nice way to emphasize that the point of rounds is for learning. I'm not sure if this is something I am going to implement because I think it can cause a little bit of pressure too, but for me, nowadays, I'm really doing mostly bedside rounds. And so one of the things I'm going to kind of talk to them about is primarily we're going to be doing bedside rounds. I put this in bold here, but my goal is for my interns to get home on time every day. I never wanted to be the person who was letting my interns stay late. And so I'm always happy to jump in to help them out with certain tasks, especially like discharges or time-sensitive tasks. I want to try and help them out as much as possible. But I never want anybody to stay late if they don't have to. So. And I'm going to delve into this a little bit more in my next video where I reflect on the last senioring experience I had. But one of the problems I think is I took that almost a little bit too seriously last time. And I felt like I was doing too much for the interns to the point where I might have been taking away some of their autonomy. And that was basically what I was doing on the last rotation. So, I need to make a fine balance where I'm not taking over too much. One of the things that I was starting to do at that time, I was like writing progress notes for them, and I was like putting in all their orders for them, and like doing a bunch of like discharge summaries for them. And I think that takes away from the experience of being an intern by doing something like that. And it probably makes them feel like, oh, why is he doing all this for me? Does he like not trust me to do it on my own or something? And so that's something I need to take like a more laid back approach. The next thing I talked about in this document is for bedside rounds, I want to establish the expectation that if you are not presenting a patient and you get paged, then I 100% expect you to step aside and return it. And not only that, but if they have a consultant to call or they need to put in some quick orders or something, I want them to step away from whatever bedside rounds we're doing and putting it and just go do it. Because I think that's one of the big downsides of bedside rounds is people feel obligated, like they have to stick around and listen to the other interns' presentation. But I want to establish the expectation that our number one priority is patient care. And the bedside rounds, I think, helps establish that. But if we can speed up a lot of the orders and, a lot of the consults for patients and speed up the intern's workflow, that's a super high priority as well. When I was doing more table rounds, I did have some information here that, when your co-intern is presenting, feel free to be on your computer, either writing your notes or following along with their presentation, looking at the patient's chart and whatever. Because I remember when I was an intern, I felt so self-conscious about being on the computer when somebody else was presenting. Nowadays, this isn't as much of an issue because I'm trying to emphasize more bedside rounds. But in general, I want them to know that, I'm not looking for them to be like, 100%, like you're not allowed to do anything else except for round right now. Like you have to like listen 100% right here. Like I want them to know that I want to do as much as I can to facilitate their workflow. So this is basically what I said at that time. You have my explicit permission to be on the computer. And then for medical students, which I don't think we have this week, but I expect interns to check in with them 10 to 15 minutes before rounds to go over their plan and try and anticipate any potential PIMP questions they may get during rounds. Your objective is to make them look as good as possible on rounds. If they look good, then our whole team looks good. Now, this is something that I, had established as an expectation in the past, and then I stopped doing it. And I feel like it was to our detriment to not establish that expectation because, it's really nice to have that kind of mentality when you have students around. And I think it makes it a much better learning atmosphere in general. All right, here's the expectations from my side. So as my role as a senior, when we are admitting patients, I want to tell interns that typically I will have them take the H&P and I will help scribe for you. I remember as an intern, my biggest pet peeve was when we went to go do the H&P and then the senior would just 100% take over and just do the whole thing. And then I'm just standing there listening. I'm just shadowing at that point. I think there's so much value in, practicing taking an H&P on your own and not having somebody interrupt all the time too. And, maybe getting some feedback afterwards if they think, you might have missed some questions or you could have approached some questions differently. But I totally think there's a lot of value in that. And the senior resident has already gotten so much practice on that. So let the intern practice. That's kind of my philosophy. But I do want to help them scribe. And one of the things I want to, ask them, I want to establish their expectation for me. Do you want me to scribe? And if so, how much would you like me to scribe? Would you just like me to scribe the H&P, or would you like me to start some of the problem list? Or do you want to practice making the problem list yourself? So here I'll say, I will scribe during H&P and try not to interrupt. Oh yeah, and one more quick thing. I just wanted to add, rounds should never be more than 2 hours. No matter how many patients we have, should be less than 2 hours. So if we're ever getting to that 2 hour mark, I'm just going to start pushing. We need to make things more concise. And yeah, why don't we add that too? I prefer, if anything, concise presentations compared to overly long formal presentation. Having a formal presentation is really good, especially for a more complicated patient. But for simple patients where we kind of already know what's going on and their plan is kind of already set, concise. Just get to the point and, spend some time counseling the patient. We can all be there together with the patient. In general, I definitely favor a more concise presentation. Okay. And then this is the point where I'm going to say, how autonomous would you like to be? So one of the things I was doing, I think, wrong the last time is I didn't establish this expectation. And this is probably what spurred me to want to do these expectations again, because I think by not establishing the expectations and then me trying to help them get home early by doing a bunch of their tasks, like doing their admission orders and doing their discharge summaries and stuff, I was just freaking monopolizing all of their work. And, I felt good because they went home on time every day. But I also, at the end of the day, I felt bad. I was like, oh man, maybe they think I'm just too overbearing and too micromanagey, right? Not letting them just have the freedom to do things. So I want to really establish how much freedom do you want to have? Do you want me to help you put in admit orders? Or do you want to learn to do it yourself? Because I'm happy to show you how to do that. And even just regular orders on rounds. Do you want to put those in yourself, or do you want me to put them in? Sign out. Do you want to have me help you update the sign out, or do you want to update it on yourself too for practice? These are all things that I think I want to clarify with them before I start just randomly taking over a lot of their tasks without asking them what they want first. All right, and so here's the next part. If there's any patients who you're unsure about or you think at all look sick, let me know right away. It will never be wrong to ask me for help or to lay eyes on someone. So this is just something that really wants me to encourage them that there's never, I'm always there for them. I don't want them to ever be afraid to ask me a question. And I don't think people tend to have, a fear of asking me a question. I don't think I'm a very intimidating, difficult to approach guy in general. But I think just clearly establishing that expectation is something nice to hear as an intern. Hey, you can ask me any stupid question. You can ask me whatever you think this is the dumbest question. I do not care. I will answer it, to the best of my ability and not make you feel stupid for asking it. So I'm just going to say it is never wrong to ask me for help. All right. Some of these things I put in earlier, if I say anything that you disagree with in terms of management, or you think there's anything I could do better, please let me know right away. I can still, I can still include that there. I think there is still value. And then I also do want to give them feedback. I really stopped doing that too. And I think that was definitely to the detriment too. Doing some feedback, it's a little hard because I'm not great at giving negative feedback to people. But I think I need to get better at giving feedback. And so even for me, this is going to be a skill that I want to be practicing. And I always felt like as an intern, getting that formal feedback was something nice to have at the end of the rotation. So I actually totally forgot about that until just now. So expect feedback at the end of the rotation. All right, and then the last thing that I used to do at the very beginning of second year, and a lot of people really liked, is setting this personal goal and professional goal for the week. And I stopped doing it because it does seem a little bit corny and cheesy at times, but it also just seems so nice because setting that professional goal means we are going to focus on trying to hit your professional goal for that week. And then setting that personal goal, I think makes it like a nicer atmosphere because it's like, oh wow, we actually like get to like talk about who we are outside of medicine. And then you actually get to hold the other people accountable for trying to reach that personal goal. For example, when I first did it, my personal goal was like play DDR 3 times that week or something. Or, another intern I had said I wanted to do 100 push-ups 3 times a week. Or somebody said I want to drink, 2 bottles of water every day. There's all sorts of personal goals that we could set. Other people had like, oh, I want to like clean my bathroom or something. And so we would like follow up and check in on them to see if they're completing their personal goal. And so it is a little corny. I feel a little awkward doing it sometimes, but I kind of want to try it out again because I feel like it's a nice atmosphere to set for the team. And it's something fun too. And it's nice to like hold people accountable and see how they're doing, making sure that they're still doing the things that they need to be doing outside medicine as well, because obviously our whole lives are not just medicine. So setting a personal and professional goal. The main reason I wanted to make this video is just to kind of just go through this process again for myself because I haven't been doing expectations for such a long time. And I kind of wanted to go through my old printout that I made and figure out which key points I want to really take out of it and talk to my interns about tomorrow. And I'm a little bit nervous again because I feel like the last time I seniored, I didn't do as well as I wanted to. And, I want to do as good as possible. And so I'm always afraid, doing expectations like this is a little nerve wracking because it's like, oh man, like it's a little, I don't know, what will people think? What if they think it's like stupid or what if they like don't like these? But you know what? I feel like when I was an intern, I always did appreciate when more clear expectations were set. And I feel like most people appreciate that. And I'm glad I got to review this with you guys because I think it's clarified this a little bit more in my head. So a couple of key points too that I wanted to add is, rounds lasting less than 2 hours, concise presentations, all of these things. But I think the biggest thing I want to ask the interns is how autonomous would you like to be? Would you like me to help out more with tasks, or would you like me to keep a more laid back, like hands-off approach? I think that's probably the biggest takeaway that I want to make sure I ask the interns tomorrow because that was the biggest mistake I think I made on my last senioring rotation. So this is a pretty random video, but I hope you guys found it, thought-provoking or interesting just to think about, your own thought process for doing expectations for your interns. And I highly, encourage you to try it out potentially and see if you like it. I'll definitely keep you guys updated on how this goes. And thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.